Hello and welcome. It's Simple Tech, and today we are going to dive into React, as we said from the previous upload. So, today we are going to talk about what React is. We are going to create our first React app, and we are going to look at how it displays its content on the web page. We are going to learn how we can set up React into our machine, how we can use the different functionality of React, how the folder structure of React looks like. What are the basic and the needed folders that we need and files that we need in React. So today we are going to dive direct into React. As we've said, we are going to look at what we need for us to get started with React. First of all, we are going to look at the prerequisites that we need for us to get started with React. Our first required tool that we need or element that we need is the basic knowledge of JavaScript and HTML. About CSS later comes because we nowadays have uh, tools that help us to style the web page that does not require us to necessarily have our coded styles, but you are going to learn CSS integrated with React as we are going henceforth, because we never learned about much of the CSS, but we are going to integrate it with JavaScript before we transition to other tools that will help us style the web page. And secondly, we are going to look at what we call Node. Node is a runtime environment that helps us to write JavaScript code which will be executed without necessarily us needing the browser. Or we can write JavaScript that interacts with other platforms, other tools that are developed, but without necessarily having them in a browser, because mostly we run JavaScript on the browser that is integrated with HTML or some browser elements and stuffs. So we are going to look at what Node is and how we are going to set it into our PC or your PC for you to get started writing the React components and all the manipulation that we need for React. We are going to have our code editor, as we discussed from the previous tutorials, that from the beginning how we can get the editor. But for this one, I'm going to just go through it quickly so that anybody who's new to this course can get the basic knowledge or know-how without necessarily going deeper, because we have other tutorial. If you never had an opportunity to look at how you can set up, you can watch my other video that I uploaded before and learn about the basics of HTML and JavaScript and CSS and Node. We are going to learn it currently, but the code editor, we also had to start with it during our first course. And we are going to introduce to us what we call CLI command, that is the create React app, that we are going to run in our terminal so that we can create or initialize a React application. Now, talking about all that, why do we need React? Because we can use React, we can use plain HTML and CSS and JavaScript to develop our web content. But why do we necessarily need React? React uses tools that are very useful for us to make the code look nice, to reuse the code, to reuse different elements and that we've created. It is going to use knowledge of hooks, React components, especially components. We are going to major in components before we get a bit more complex on hooks. But I'm going to give you an example of how we are going to utilize React for us to have a little lines of codes that do powerful things, or how you can use JavaScript, how you can modify the JavaScript mixed with HTML so that we can get useful manipulation of the UI. Remember, React, it was created so that the developers can use it as a tool to develop the user interfaces, not the experiences, or it's not a framework. It's just a library created by Facebook for developers to use it to style, to have seamless user interfaces. For this instance, I may want to share with you my simple portfolio here. So this is a React application, React application here. That is a web application that I created for my portfolio. For example, you're going to build it from scratch, or maybe have a different version of this React. Sorry. So for this instance, we have this component up here. I've called it component, and we are going to understand why I've called it component. It has the navigation, the icon of the, for example, said company or my icon, and we have this toggling effect here. You can toggle between light mode and dark mode in your application. So this is the navigation section. And this one here is our banner that displays who are we, and it just advertises us before we get to know more about us. And here we have a small section, and here we have all the data about me, for example. So if in case I've read all about this and I want to navigate to the work that I have done, for this instance, we can see we have the same banner, we have the same highlight here, and we have other contents beginning from here downwards, whereby we are having work, what I've done, who I am, and what I've done. And these are the cards. These I can just name them as cards. This is the first card that has my first or maybe one of my projects that I've done. This is the second one, this is the third one, and this is the fourth one, and this is the fifth one. Now, in plain HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, if I were to create all this, I was to create this navigation above here, I was to create this banner, and I was to create this header, maybe a bit like hashtag or something, or just something spicy for your web app. So and this section here. So if I was to use HTML and CSS and JavaScript, I could create the navigation, the banner, and this other section, and these other cards as displayed here. And the same, I will use it in my about to create this navigation, this banner, this section here, and the data below that section, or maybe information about me in the other section. But a problem is coming here. This code is going to become a bit more huge because we have repeated codes. This component, same section of the web page appears in my work web page also when I navigate to the route, for example, my URL/work. So it has repeated here. And if I go to post, the same components appears with other information. If I was to use a JavaScript, HTML, and CSS, I could write a lot of repeated codes. And repeated codes means you need to be optimal, you need to be you need to look at your code well so that you don't have repeated codes within your you need to be as optimal as possible so that you can just avoid a bit of repetition in your development. This is where JavaScript mixed with HTML, which will bring us to what we call the JSX extension. The JSX extension is a JavaScript extension that helps us to have files that can hold JavaScript that is mixed with XML. It's a JavaScript XML file that has JavaScript mixed with HTML elements. So you can have a JavaScript that within the JavaScript, as you are typing or as you are developing, you have mixed HTML elements and other logics in your web application. So for this instance, how React helps us to do this, you can just code this navigation somewhere as a component of its own. And then this navigation has your banner here, and it has, I mean, your navigation has the icon for that web page, the navigations, and the toggle button, for example, for light mode and dark mode. And then you code another component, that is the banner, which will have a picture, for example, here, my name and a brief of what I do. And then we have other sections. For example, you may have other section that repeats within the code. For example, it's a like button, it repeats here, it repeats in your profile, it repeats maybe somewhere in your about or something. So JavaScript mixed with the JSX, that is JavaScript XML, which is a React component, is going to help us to come up with a solution on how we can avoid the redundancy of the code within the code base for this instance. Now, as we can try to get started with what we call React, we need to have our runtime environment, which was our second element between which was our second element in our development prerequisites, that is the node runtime environment. For this instance, we will now have this component from maybe their website. For this instance, you can just head to a browser, and then you type node.js, and from our search we are going to, with this first result, that is the official page for Node, and then you are going to look at how the documentations and everything. You can just read about the documentation of this, how it works and everything, but for us we are just concentrating on how we can get started with React. So for this instance, you just press here get, and then you come here, you specify the version you want, and then you have to specify the environment you're using. Maybe it's Windows, Mac, or Linux, or other with Docker or something, or npm, but just basically be simple. Just use the simple one. If you're using Mac, you can just switch here to Mac, and then everything, then you download it. You download it in this web page, or if it brings about any complication, you can just comment and I'll help you through. So if you just download it, download the zipped version, and then you unzip it, and then you install it. And when it is installed, we are going to test it in our code editor to see whether it's up and running. It's going to take you through some dialogues if you want to install it as in the environment variables and everything. After you go through it successfully, then you are going to navigate to your VS Code for this instance. Navigate to VS Code, and then in your VS Code, we are going to open the terminal. Just navigate to somewhere. For this instance, I'm just using VS Code, and if you don't know how to get to Visual Studio Code, in my first video I can have it somewhere linked, so that you can have a look at how you can get that code editor. So you come here at the top. If it's not listed, you come here and you have this. You open a new terminal. So if you open a terminal, it appears here. So if I want to check what version of Node I'm running, I'll just type node hyphen hyphen v, then I type enter. node hyphen v version. So I'm running currently in my PC, I'm running the node version 22.14.0. So node is already configured in my runtime environment. I'm on the runtime environment I need to be. So secondly, you're going to navigate to your files for this instance. If you just wanted to have get started with the code base, we are going to navigate here to our files, and then you are going to open the folder, and then you're going to navigate. For this instance, I'll navigate to the desktop, and in my desktop, if you don't have somewhere you are going to store this code base, you can just create a folder. Press like any normal way of creating a folder. This is a shortcut of how you can create a folder as you're just opening it immediately. So for this instance, maybe say I created this my web, and then you just select it, and then you press select, and and and, uh, and it's going to display for us the folder. Yeah. So as we've said, we are going to have this project organized in a folder of our choice, of our own naming for this instance. For example, if I wanted to have a project called my app, I would go to the desktop. In the desktop, I create a folder called my app, and then in that and then store it in the desktop. I'll open my Visual Studio Code, go to the file section, and then you go to the open folder like this, and then it's going to bring up a pop-up. It's going to bring us a pop-up here for this instance, and this pop-up is going to display for us some thing in our desktop. And in our desktop we have that my web, for example, if that is the folder we created, and then we are going to select the folder, and it's going to open up the folder inside the folder that we wanted it to create. For this instance, like this, we are in the folder. If you want to test it, you can just navigate here to the terminal, and then you have a new terminal, and within the terminal it's going to show you the directories that you've navigated up to the directory we are in. For this instance, it's in the users, then we are in the Tony, inside the desktop, and then in the desktop we had this file. So here we are in the file that we need to be for us to get our React app set. So the next thing is you can just do it directly here. You can just write create hyphen react app for this instance, and then you have to press a space, and then you specify the app name instead, in case you just wanted, for example, say in this folder here, my web, you wanted to create the client side and the server side. So you can just say, since this one is a front end, you can just say create React app in client for this instance. So it's going to create a folder inside my web that is called client, and then inside that client is going to initialize a React application for this project we are creating. But if I just wanted to create directly in my web folder, I'm just going to put a full stop here, so that I'm just specifying in the current directory. So if I press enter, it's going to prompt me. For this instance, it has thrown an error, but so for this instance, it's just because I had created another one here, that is why it has brought this error. But if for your instance, if you never had any other project initialized there, you can just write create React app, and then it's going to tell you install create React app. and then you're going to type Y, and then it's going to allow you to install that one. Or alternatively, you can just head to the browser, and then you type, you just open a new tab, you type npm. This is a node package manager. For this instance, it's a tool that was created for you to organize your packages in your React application, or in your Vite application, or in just any bundler you are using for this case. So if you navigate to this main page for the React, so we are going to use this website a lot and a lot in our development, because it has all the installations that we need, all the packages that we might need. So for this instance, you can just type here create React app, and then you press search. So it's going to search for you how you can install that, and the documentation and everything. So for this instance, it's here, create React app with no build configuration. So we just go with this one, and it's going to tell us this is how the installation is always on the right. So we can see here, you can copy this npm install. This is node package manager, and then I for install create React app. So we are going to install this tool into our machine, so that anytime you want to create React app, we just write create React app, and then we specify the folder name, and it's going to give us what you can just navigate, get to see how we can get started with it. It has everything. This is an official package manager, so it will redirect you to their official page and the documentation. So here you can see px create React app at latest. For this instance, this one is creating a create React app. When you see this at latest, he wants to create a React application with the latest updates, the latest version of how we can create a React app in my app folder directory for this case. So we go back to our VS Code and we create one. So if you write here create React app, and then I put a full stop, then you press enter, it's going to initialize the entire folders and files that you need for you to get started. For my case, I am not going to type it because I had created it before, because it takes a little bit more time to download depending on your network, and how the speed of your network operates. It's going to create it. So after it creates, it is going to tell you cd into the folder. So for example, if it is this one, it's going to tell you write cd into dot, and then in that cd into dot, you are going to we are going to learn how we can run that for instance that application. So if we had created that one, it's going to have a panel on the left side here, as you can see here, with file folders and files. For this case, we are going to learn the different folders that are here in this application. So for our case, we have this SRC, that is the short form for source folder, which we are going to look at a lot. And this is our playground, and our everything we are going to do, we are just going to do inside this source folder. We are having the public folder here. It has a lot of files, but we are going to look at the one that is important, and we have the node modules. So for this case, if we start looking at these folders, we can start with the public folder, for example. And in our public folder, we are going to have icons and images that are going to be used globally on this application for this case. But we are going to just focus with this HTML, index.html file. That is our main entry of this, our application. As we said, any web application must be written in HTML for now, so that we can have everything shown in our HTML. You don't need to worry about all these codes that is written here for this case, but our main target here, you just scroll down to you can see here we have the title. As we learned from the previous course, the title is a very key element in our application, because this is going to display what our application is in the tab of our page. And we're having the body section. This is where everything is going to be displayed. For this instance, we've just displayed a no script here. You need to enable JavaScript to run in this application. And here comes our main entry, this div here. These are division where our application is entirely going to be inserted for us to get the preferred web page we want. This we are just giving it an ID of root. This is the main file, the main file that is going to hold all the data that you are developing, all the elements that you are having for us to get started with having that web application or maybe a website. This is our entry for this case. Just mark this section here. We are going to come back here again. So in the public folder, this is our main file here for now. And then we head to the source folder. The source folder has many files, but we are going to look at specific ones. For this our case, we are going to look at the index.js. This is a JavaScript file. This is our JavaScript file. If I can open it, let me minimize this one. So it has imports from different packages that we've downloaded, imports, and we have imported some files that we've created here. So for this case, we are using React. So React, we are importing React, and these imports, these are packages that somebody had built, and we have to install them into our project so that we don't have to redefine the functions. Like somebody developed some toolings that is going to be used and reused within your code. You don't have to come up with your own version, because if I can just use a div, like somebody else can use a div, so I don't have to come up with another declaration of that div. So all these packages are installed, and these packages are installed and we are stored inside our node modules. These node modules are these files here we are importing. So if you happen to see a node modules in any project, you just know that one uses the node module packages. This is the main storage of the packages we are using. For example, if we want to use React, it's stored in this file, so in this folder. So when we import it from there. So yeah, and we can see here we are using the React DOM. This is very key in our React, because the React DOM, this is where we initialize our root entry into the HTML file. We are going to manipulate this declaration for us to create an entry point, the root entry point for us to have the content displayed in our HTML file. For this instance, you can see here we had a variable called root, and we created a root. Here you can see react dom.create root, and we selected the root. We selected using the get element by ID. Here we are fetching an element in our HTML with an ID of root. So this file directly accesses the index.html file here that has this division with a root ID. So this root ID is our key entry point in our index.html. So index.html goes into the document object model of our website, That is the object models like the tree structure from the HTML. We have the header section and the body section, and within the body section we are having a div and a div of ID root. For this case we've selected it, and in this root we are rendering some elements into it. So we are using the render function, and to it we pass some components. Here we can see React strict mode. This is a React tool that is used to test on the application, on the on mount and the unmount of the it's going to we are going to learn about it because it's used to test our application before in development before we host it. It's going to do some, maybe it runs, for this case if I had run this, it's going to run twice. It mounts the element and mounts the element and then mounts the element. Like, you have to display the content, see whether there is a problem, and mount the element. You hide the element and then you display it. So you just it checks on, for this instance, on whether the elements are working correctly. And here we have another element, that is an app element. This app element, as you can see here, it's imported from somewhere in our current directory and in a file called app. So for this case, we are in this directory, and the current directory is here. We are having this app.js. App.js, what does it has? Does it have? It has now the contents that we need for us to display in our root division that we selected in our index.html file. So these structures we are here, this file contains the HTML elements which are going to be exported. As you can see here, we have exported it default as app, and this export is going to be imported in the index.html here, and in the index.html, in the root that we selected in the public section here, in the index.html file here, index.html here, we are directing it from the index.jsx, that in that root we display the app. And where does the app come from? It is imported from the file called app.js. App.js has all the contents. For this instance, it has a header here, it has some content here and everything. We are going to run and see how it's working. So here it has an import also, that is the app.css, the styles for this app, and you can see it is from the same directory but in a file called app.css. Here it is, and the app.css has some stylings. These are classes. We are going to learn about classes and the different styles, how we can, these are basic styles for the app for this case. For now, those are the main key files that we need here, and the CSS, index.css. Index.css, in fact, the difference between index.css and app.css, index.css, you can see it's imported in the main file where we access the entry of our application into the HTML. So the CSS that are written here in the index.css are going to be applied on every component that we are bringing back here. But this other CSS, for this instance, like the one we've imported in our app.css, is only going to be used within the app.css. You see, unless we import it, we have this import here. For this instance, for example, I copy it and I come and paste it as an import here, like this. Then this is going to also use the CSS that we've had in the index.css, but we don't want to have it that way. We just want it to have the way it was, and we are going to learn why we need to use this CSS this way, because we have global CSS and we have the ones that are dynamic within the elements, as you can see. So touching on that one, and the next thing I was to tell you about is the JSX. So for this instance, it uses the .js, the .js, .css, and everything. We can have this file. We can have a look at this file. This file is a function. We are having a JavaScript function, and we've declared here using the function keyword. And then the function name, we have the parentheses here, and then we have the body here. And this body, it returns some contents. This body returns what? An HTML content. Then it means this is a JSX file. So a JSX file is a JavaScript XML file that returns JavaScript mixed with HTML elements for this instance, for UI. So if I import this application function, app function here into index.css, here as we've as we've imported here for this instance, and then on displaying it, we are going to display it as an HTML element, but of our own definition, that is called the app. So it is a self-closing element that is a component. And in fact, a component is this function. A component is the function that returns a JSX for this case. So here in the index.jsx, in the index.js for this case, we are returning an app component that returns the contents that we have here for this case. So we are having these other files here, but we are having the git ignore file. This is where you write everything that you need to ignore for while you are pushing this thing to your GitHub repo or somewhere on the code base, so that you don't have to also import it to also push the node modules. But we are going to learn how it's of value to do that. So we are having the package.json, so that we can have the more packages. We are going to look at this one. We can have the packages linked and uh, a lot of technicalities there. So the key file here is package.json. It contains all the packages that are required in that application for that application to work smoothly without any malfunctioning. So for this case, what does it has? It has the application name, that is my web. By default, it just gets it to the name of the folder you are in, the version of that web application you are creating, and other tools. We are having the scripts here. So this section is very key in your development because it defines how you are going to run this web application. It defines how you are going to test this web application. It defines how you are going to build this application so that you can have the build version of this application. We are having dependencies here. Dependencies, these are packages that are installed for this our case for you to utilize it. And these packages are stored in the node.modules. For this case, like we used the React DOM for us to create the entry point in our index.js. You can see here, we imported from React DOM in the client folder. We imported React DOM, which is a function that has, which is a, you can say a function for this case that has another an object that has a function called create root, and then the parameter passed to that function is where we are creating that root. For this case, we are getting this through the get element by id in the index.js, and we are displaying it. But the key sections here are the scripts and dependencies, and we're going to see the dev dependencies sections. These are very key because for this instance, if you wanted to run this application and see what it does, we are going to have the start here, which which is going to run the React scripts for start. For this case, for example, you can just write here npm run npm run start for this case. So this is how we are running the package for the React application. So if I write here, it's just taking a little bit time here, and you're going to look at what it does, what this application has created for us. Let's wait a little bit and see what it will display for us. So it's compiling and it's bundling up everything, and it's going to link up everything using all the dependencies, ensuring that everything is running. So it's opening up here in the browser. Yeah, you can see here there's progress. Yeah, as we can see here in the browser, it's running on localhost on port 3000. For the most great React application, it runs on the port 3000. We are going to see, we are going to learn how that one works. So let's see what it will display for us. Okay. It's taking a little bit time because it's bundling up all the codes so that we can have the contents into our web page, into the website, into the browser, I mean. So basically, this is the basic knowledge that you need for you to get started with your first React application. This is a template that when you create a React application, is pre-configured for you to now reconfigure it or remove the unnecessary files that you need and everything, so that you can have the new application that you want. But it just comes like for this one here, you can see it has brought this we can have it is now, this is the application itself for this case. So it's running. If you can inspect it and we see whether there is a problem, for this case, you just right click here, you go to element and then the console, then you can see it's running successfully for this case. So if you wanted, for example, to modify it a little bit and see whether we can have something done, so we just go back to our VS Code and we go in our application.js, because this is where we are creating the element that's going to be exported into our index.js, and the index.js for this context sends this component into the index.html in our public section so that it can be displayed. So we modify the application, the app.js. So we come here inside this, we clean up all these codes here. We have a plain div, and then we say hello, it's web dev with simple tech t for this case. So if I save it like this, you're just going to see it's going to compile the same code again so that we can have a newer version of what we've created. This is a runtime environment, as we said. It's running on a Node.js runtime environment, and we are going to look at what it will have for us, the new changes that we've done. So this the good with the advantages with this. Here we are having some errors for this case, but they are just weak errors because it's even telling you the logo is defined but not used, this logo here and other things, but the application is running successfully, as we can see. Let's navigate to the window and see what it does here. So you can see it's displaying hello, it's web dev with simple text. So we are having it updated. So as I was saying, the goodness with React, it is running on top of a runtime environment, that is Node.js. And Node is going to take care of the reloads, the refreshes. It's like having your application in the platform it's supposed to run on. For example, it just prepares everything if it was running on a MacBook or on an Android or somewhere, and then you're having it displaying how you expect it to display, but on another Android device. You can see. So as at this point, I'm going to complete this course here. We've learned about the folder structure. We've learned about what we need for us to get started with React.js. We've learned about creating our first Create React application using Create React app. We've configured Node.js runtime into our machines or our laptop or our PC or any device that you use for web development, and we've successfully modified some contents here. So in our next application, we are going to maybe recreate the maybe a portfolio, maybe an application, a real world application of using this knowledge that we've gathered here. So I thank you all for your time unto this end. And if you've really reached this point, then it means this content must be of help. And I thank you. I'll massively appreciate if you like this video, you share it, and we've noticed that at some point you might be watching this video minus subscribing. Kindly please subscribe. It massively motivates me to do this every now and then. I'll be posting another video probably next Thursday, or maybe somewhere within the week before Thursday. So I'll be uploading 2 videos per week. So thank you. And if you find this message or this tutorial useful, you can share with your friends. Subscribe, tell them to keep in touch, hit the notification bell for updates. So thank you for your time.